20 by 4.0 fat tires, styling that will make classic motorcycle enthusiasts rethink e-bikes. It's well documented that I like e-bikes, I like mopeds, I like vintage rides. This is all of the above. The Yadea Trooper-01, a bike that's different than any other I've looked at thus far for a few reasons. Before I begin, let me say I'll put a link to this bike down in the description, and links on this channel may be affiliate links. This channel might earn a commission from their use. It's a great way to support KevCentral without costing you anything extra. Also, I was offered a production fee to take a look at this bike, which I would have done for free because it's so cool, but they had to agree to my terms. I retain full control, no scripting. This is actually my opinions, and they had to agree that I could refuse to not publish the video if this didn't meet my standards. Well, clearly it did because you're seeing this video. Let me tell you why. Starting with the components, what makes up a Trooper-01? The bars. Given the style of this bike, an interesting choice. I think flat bars would have been 100% Cafe Racer, but they went with taller bars, which I understand. These are far more comfortable and they still look good. Plus, it has a BMX stem, so anything is possible. Bar complements flow well with these bars. Full grips on both ends. It would be a sin to put this bike with a half grip and a half throttle. So there's a thumb throttle instead, and this one has a design that blends right in. Beside that, the e-bike display, monochrome, a backlit monochrome, easily visible even in noon sun. I'll show you the function in a moment. For now, let's move over to the left side where there are two buttons. One to turn the headlight off and on, the other, the bike's digital horn. This minimalism gives a very clean and open top, plenty of room to bring your own items like an iPhone holder, or Android if that's how you roll. Also on the bars, the brake levers. This bike is equipped with Tektro hydraulic disc brakes. And these have the ever important motor cutoff switch built in. You want your brakes to cut the motor off too. This bike does that. I've showed you the headlight switch. Here's the headlight, prominent and functional. Triple LED and bright enough to make this bike visible even during daylight. At the back, a light too, the tail light, which also functions as a brake light. The handlebars, the headlight, everything up front mounted to the bike's fork. A motorcycle-inspired fork. This one's made by RST and it has stanchion guards on both sides. It's an inverted suspension fork with 80 millimeters of travel. Tell me, how good does this look? Also mounted to the fork, a front fender, more motorcycle inspiration here, a half front fender with the second half mounted as a splash guard to the bike's frame behind the tire. Speaking of tires, one of my favorites, 20 by 4.0 fat tires, these made by CST, meaning they're true 4-inchers. Those are wrapped around drilled rims. Now these fat tire rims, usually they're single wall, especially when they're drilled like this. These are double wall. That adds strength and major coolness. Getting those fatties rolling is a drivetrain that starts with person power. This is an e-bike, so it needs pedals, and these pedals are alloy. They're mounted to alloy crank arms. The crank set includes a single chainring. I have to count the teeth on this, but I'm editing the video right now and I want to verify the number, so I'll put it down in the description along with the rear cog set tooth count. Note that there's no derailleur or multiple gears here. This is the Trooper-01. It's a single speed. Maybe the 01's making sense now. Single speed simplicity fits with this bike's look. Plus the electric motor will be doing most of the work depending upon rider preference. Could even do all of the work since it has a throttle. The motor though, that's make or break on an e-bike, and this motor 48 volts, 750 watts. Yadea branded. I don't have the torque rating. If I get it, I'll put it in the description. For now, know that this is 750 watts, and that's what gets this looker of an e-bike rolling. Keeping the rider comfortable, that's the saddle's job, and this is an actual leather saddle. Designed like a true motorcycle seat, ribs and all. Seat height, 29.5 inches. Well designed to flow together like the seat that looks like it's straight off a classic racer, and so does this battery. Perfectly positioned to mimic a gas tank, but it's not a tank, it's a battery. Yadea branded. On the right side, a keyed lock. Center, that would be an integrated handle. On the left side, more Yadea branding, the charge port, and an on-off switch. The two included keys allow removal of the battery. It easily slides straight back to come off. On the underside, we can find the battery's rating. 48 volt, 20 amp hours. That's 960 watt hours, and there's more. I usually don't see this on batteries. A max charge voltage, max charge current, even charging and discharging temperature ratings. A single rail mounts this to the top of the frame, and I've been looking at e-bikes for a while now, and one thing that I know is single rail batteries tend to have a slight wobble. I was concerned since this battery sits exposed up top, but that's no problem here. This battery is so secure and firmly mounted that I can use it to wobble the entire bike and the battery itself doesn't move. Strong, a word I will also apply to the bike's frame. My opinion is this is beyond adequate. For a 20 mile per hour e-bike, I would be confident on this frame at 50 miles per hour. Nice welds, purpose-built, robustly built. One thing they did well with this design is even though this is an exposed tube frame, they managed to almost hide the rear suspension. There's actually a rear coil shock tucked up in there. It's an adjustable coil shock. There's something else tucked out of the way at the rear too, the speed controller. That's housed under the saddle. Along with the unique styling and all the other components, there's something else unique about this bike. UL listing on batteries is increasingly important these days. Yadea took it a step further. They had the entire bike UL listed. This is a UL2849 rated product. I'm told one of the few e-bikes on the market that meet this rating. Some respect is definitely due there. Another thing I respect is completing a design. Sometimes it's the simple things that make a difference. Motorcycle-style e-bikes with the top bar often have an unutilized center section. What better to complete the classic styling than using that area with this? A built-in cargo carrier. It comes out of the box with cargo in it. This is where the battery charger was located. I instantly liked the look of this, even more so when a buddy that rides Triumph motorcycles ogled over this bike and mentioned that the drilling mimics the weight-saving holes classic motorcyclists used to drill into their bike. Plus, I find it a great spot to put a hat while I'm riding so I don't have to tuck it in a backpack. Performance-wise, this bike is rated as Class 2 20 miles per hour. Getting the power to match the pedal cadence is handled via a sensor at the bottom bracket. Getting this 83 pounds of bike stopped from 20 miles per hour, that goes to the Tektro hydraulic disc brakes, which use 180mm rotors front and rear. Before I ride this, a quick look at the display controls. Simple and easy to use, the top button cycles through the 3 available output settings: Eco, Mid, and High, and then of course none if you want to pedal yourself. The middle button, that's not a headlight off and on, that's a backlight off and on, meaning finally a bike with a headlight that can be run during the daytime without dimming the display. The M button selects between trip and odometer. That's the components, and I was impressed with what I saw at this point, but would the ride be able to match the visual quality and the good looks? That's a big ol' yes. First, the bike will zip right up to the rated 20 mile per hour top speed, where it's not only smooth, but stable. Enough so that I can ride with one hand at top speed over my city's increasingly rough streets. It looks like there isn't suspension action going on, but trust me, there is. It's just that stable, and there's also no frame flex, even when I stand up and press on the fork. Very solid. The bike's also agile. It can dart around on a moment's notice, and those little fat tires just dig right in. Over the years, I found these CSTs to be among the best 20x4.0s. They're good on and off-road. And the bike itself, surprisingly capable off-road. Now, let me say, this isn't a trail bike for extreme riding, but it can handle off-road paths and jaunts off-road where transitions are involved onto different types of terrain. I was even able to successfully ride this up the main entrance to the mountain bike trail to meet a buddy that was doing maintenance work. I made it there and made it back without issue, and I'm going to ride this bike up a big hill in a moment, so I want you to stick around for that. First though, a test I've started to do recently, and that's a free roll on a bike down the big hill, where this one tops out at slightly over 30 miles per hour. That means it's a good free rolling bike, rarely talked about but important. I even tested for wobble at these speeds, taking the hand off the bars. I don't recommend that, but I can test it. I can also test the brakes at the bottom of this hill, where it slows effortlessly. So far, it's been all throttle riding. Let's talk about pedal cadence. If one of the pedal assist modes is selected, power between off and on. When you quit pedaling and when you start pedaling, minimal, fractions of a second. The large seat allows riders of varying height to find the best position. I'm 5'10", and I found a sweet spot, and they rate this bike for riders 5'2" to 5'11". I think that's accurate. Pedal cadence in eco mode, slow and easy. I think everyone will be happy. If you want pedal assist up to 20 miles per hour, that's possible, but I don't think anyone buys an e-bike to pedal at top speeds. Here's motor sounds with the load and unloading at various throttle points. Can it be pedaled without power? Yes, on flat ground, completely doable, but e-bikes are heavy, so plan to bring strong legs if that's your intent. Earlier, I talked about transitions to different kinds of terrain. They call this an off-road e-bike on their website. I agree, it's agile enough and with enough traction and suspension smoothness to handle cutting across fields or taking shortcuts when available. And the 750 watts will zip this bike right up to the 20 mile per hour top speed in throttle only mode. That's where the speed caps, but the power, well, there's power in reserve. I'll get into that in just a second. First, let me say that the stated ranges up to 55 miles per charge. I used throttle only for almost all of my first ride. I went 15 miles and I still had 2 bars of battery left. Now, what did I mean by power in reserve? The bike is limited to its legal speed of 20 miles per hour max up top. But that doesn't mean the motor can't output more power because it is limited. So let's go back to that large hill that I regularly test e-bikes on and do so throttle only. You see, I'm not pedaling, this is throttle only. I've ridden 750 watt bikes that'll only go 8 miles per hour up this hill throttle only. Some won't even make it. This bike not only pulls the entire hill, but it does so throttle only at its max speed. All the way to the top. It never dropped below 19 miles per hour. It was usually right at its cap, 19.9, which rounds up to 20. And I usually feel a bike rapidly accelerate when it hits the top of the hill. This bike, I felt the power cut off because it was already at its top speed, so it was waiting to slow down below 20 before it put more power back on. New hill climb champion for a 750 watt bike by over 5 miles per hour. And I've been showing this mostly off-road riding, but it's even more fun in the city where it's completely capable zipping through alleys and darting around obstacles. And because it has pedals in areas like mine, I can even ride this in the bike lane, at least at the time I'm making this video. In my city, they don't give a second look at an e-bike in the bike lane. I like bikes in general, but this one, it digs deep into my list of wants and my desires, and I'm not looking forward to having to ship it to the next location. But at least I'm lucky enough to be able to have unboxed it new from the box, and I have to say, I'm impressed. Both with how it handles and how it performs well, and of course, how it looks. I couldn't get out of this with talking about those looks. It literally looks cool standing still. I accidentally recorded this, me pulling over to text, and when I was going through footage and I saw this, I thought, yeah, that pretty much sums up how cool this is. Even in shadow form, it looks like a vintage motorcycle. And I'm so impressed, I really only have one nitpick, and that's that the speedometer shows kilometers per hour. I like miles per hour. How much does something like this cost? I'll put the price up in the title and I'll try to keep that updated. If you see this video at a later date and the price has changed, message me and I'll fix it. Links in the description. Another note that some links are affiliate links. That's my opinions on the Trooper-01 from Yadea. Very nice. I'm impressed. Let me know what you think. Do you like bikes like this? These cafe racers or motorcycle styled bikes? And is this the coolest one I've looked at so far? Let me hear what you have to say. Don't forget to thumbs up this video, and I hope you are subscribed. Do so if you haven't already. Thanks for watching KevCentral, and have a great day.